As the storms hit all of us in some way or another today, I decided to think about childhood poverty. What made me think of this was simple thing. Went to have a shower this morning, freezing cold water because the storms had tripped something in the heating and we had no hot water until about an hour ago. So no hot water, no electricity in certain rooms, not totally cut off, but enough for me to have a very, very cold wash this morning. And you know, your first thoughts are, oh my gosh, this is awful. Oh no, I can't have a cup of tea. Oh, hang on, let's see if the gas works. Maybe I can boil up some water on the stove and, you know, have a coffee or a tea that way. That's a mild inconvenience. It lasted for the morning, big deal. What it made me remember is that for some people in our country, we're not talking about third world countries and deprivation, we're talking about our country in the United Kingdom. There are children for whom that is their daily experience, that's what they know, that's their life. I did a video blog some time ago about the United Nations report saying that we were the 5th richest country in the world. This is a report last year, and yet we are constantly failing the poorest and most vulnerable in our society through through child poverty, through the way we treat people with disabilities. There's all sorts of ways in which we are failing them. So I just felt I needed to say something about this poverty being something real, and this week in particular is worth mentioning it because for a lot of schools across the country this is half term. Now for teachers, half term is like, phew, thankfully we can recharge, we can get our energy levels back up, time with our family, this is great. For a lot of children, great, half term, we can play, we can see our friends, we can do this, we can do that, we might be going on holiday, whatever. But there are a large number of children in the United Kingdom for whom school holidays are a disaster. There are times when they're not going to get enough food. There are times when they're not going to get enough attention and care. There are times where they are going to be neglected, not necessarily through deliberate abuse, but through lack of means of doing anything else. Having done this myself, I also know lots of other teachers who do this. There are children over the course of my career who I've provided I've made sure they've had food every day by just bringing in, you know, there's schools where I've taught, and I know there are a lot of teachers who do this, where they bring in a loaf of bread, they've brought in some sort of toaster that they keep in school, and they make certain children just some toast for when they get into school, because they know that way they've had something to eat in the morning, because they're not going to get that from home. We just can easily make assumptions that the children arrive at school having been fed, having been able to have a wash, wearing warm, clean, mended, you know, well-kept clothes. These are not realities for a lot of our children. There are schools who do an incredible job staying open in holidays to ensure that those children that need it, really need it, get food. Simple as that. There are schools where I know they have, over the Christmas period, they made sure that every child in their school had a Christmas present. What an amazing thing to do. One of the things that was then reported about that was the head teacher who'd set this up then reported seeing some of those gifts they'd given the children up for sale, because then the parents could use that to buy food. These are choices that most of us don't have to make, but we can't shut our eyes to the fact that so many people do have to make these choices. Okay, these are important things. Now, we talk about Maslow's hierarchy of need, and I know that if you look at, there are people who are exceptions, like Alex Natung, who has done a YouTube video on his conditions in the Congo when he was growing up were appalling, and he managed to achieve self-actualization with everything else not in place, except he had the idea of safety. Safety was a concept he understood, and he related to his grandmother. If you get a chance to see Alex Natung on YouTube. Please, please, please watch it. But that's me going slightly off topic. We talk, for most people, the hierarchy of needs matters. You need, in order to be able to achieve above and beyond, you need certain things in place. So you need basic safety and security. You need to feel safe. There are a lot of children in our schools who do not feel safe, either at home or in some cases at school. You need to have your basic needs met. You need to have food, you need to have warmth, you need to have shelter, you need to have clothing. And there are enough children in our country, just too many children in our country, for whom that's just not a reality. They don't have these things in place. But we're expecting them to learn, to come into school and be ready, receptive vessels for learning. Not going to happen if these children do not have these basics. You've then got to have your self-esteem, you've got to have good relationships and confidence. All of these things matter. Now, as a special needs teacher, I often talk about self-esteem, because if you have a learning disability, that can affect your self-esteem, which can then affect your ability to grow and develop. You need those supports. But take away the special needs element, which applies to a lot of those in poverty as well as the poverty. Look at the poverty factor and how that is then going to affect the education of these children. And when they come into school and they see people around them who don't have those issues, that's going to knock them back even more. Some teachers don't get it. They just don't understand it. I had a colleague years ago who got cross because a child wasn't looking forward to Christmas. Well, that child's parents were undergoing divorce and he didn't know where he was going to be. Of course he wasn't looking forward to Christmas. It was a time of school holiday. It was going to be a really difficult time for him. And we as teachers need to be aware of the realities of our children as opposed to projecting our realities onto them. Our realities of security, safety, warmth, food, needs being catered for is not automatically the reality of those we're trying to teach. So we need to be aware of that. Awareness is the first step. Hopefully we can then do stuff about it. We can't solve the problems of poverty in the country as individuals for the whole country, but what we can do is our bit. So, you know, I used to take in cereal bars and, as I say, bread, make toast for children. Things like that is a step. It may not be enough, but it's a step. Understanding these children, appreciating their differences, and what we can, doing what we can to accommodate. You know, there shouldn't be a stigma to having to support, you know, children's uniform. There's no reason why we can't support that. We can encourage people to donate uniform that's been outgrown, and then keeping it clean and mended, offer it out to children. There's no reason why we can't do that. Some schools do it well. For other schools that can be seen very much as a stigma. So there's not loads that we can do. I know that, I get that. As I say, I can't single-handedly solve the welfare situation of my country, but I can heighten awareness, do my bit, support where I can, and hopefully help teachers to think that the child in front of them may be presenting behaviour issues, withdrawn issues for a reason, and that reason may be a special needs reason, but it might also be a reason for things that are going on outside of school that we need to be aware of, we need to keep track of, we need to investigate, we need to let the right people know. We have a duty of care for these children. Most schools have some form of green form system where you fill out a form if you have any concern, and it could be a concern about this child has arrived in school every day this week looking unwashed, smelling, the clothes are dirty. It could be that this child appears hungry. This child has been stealing food. Well, why are they stealing food? It could just be that they need food. You know, they've taken somebody's snack. Yeah, because they're hungry. So we need to be aware of this, we need to report it, we need to manage it as best we can, and we need to, above all, think of these children in half term And is there anything we can do at those points? Yes, we need our breaks, I get that. We as teachers do need to have our breaks. However, we need to be so aware of what our children might be going home to, and where we can, we do what we can to support. Thank you.